Dominique Kelley, the Dom. You've been in so many different projects, and I don't have time to like rattle them all off, but you have been in so many things, covers of Dance Sphere magazine,
Thanks to
and
you.
oh no, that's all you and your background and talent. I had no words to do with that, but I do know that you have been recently online everywhere because I've seen you teaching for a Broadway. Is it Broadway Babies? No,
Broadway Babysitters. Yes,
right, Broadway
Playhouse.
Babies,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is totally something new that I want you to explain. And then also through some other studios like CLI and, doing things like that. And I'm assuming working because I feel like your schedule, I never have caught you until now, which is great because there's a lot of people that aren't working.
Yes.
So very blessed in that aspect. But I want you to go over, I sent you a message not too long ago. And I was like, did you do The Princess and the Frog? Because this guy on here looks like not looks, but is moving exactly like you. So how did that whole thing come about?
So it was funny because I was the very first person who auditioned for the role, and it was Dr. Facilier, video reference for Disney's The Princess and the Frog.
Mm-hmm.
And I walked in, and the choreographer just goes like, and I was like, "Uh-oh, do I have a
So
boogie? Like, what happened?" Because the call said they wanted a long, lanky African American male who can
mhm.
tap and tumble and has like sinewy snake-like movements. And I was like, check, check, and check. I can do that.
Yes.
So I walked in, do some movement with her, and then she was just like, okay, great. We'll call you. And then the next person came in, and I didn't know who he was, and I saw him dancing. In my head, it's one of those moments where it's like, if I don't get this, I won't say that anything's wrong with me, but I'm going to question your judgment. So, needless to say, I did get it. And then when she first showed me what Dr. Facilier looked like, we
Mm-hmm.
looked alike. And it was the craziest
Yeah.
thing ever in my life because they
Yeah.
drew the character before they saw me. Gap in my teeth,
Mm-hmm.
same like pucker, like when something goes
Yeah.
wrong, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So it was very interesting to see yourself on there. And then most of my friends, they were like, have you seen the movie? This guy, the character dances like you. And I was like,
Yes.
funny that you say that because it is me.
Exactly. And so, for people watching, if you've not seen the Princess and the Frog movie, Dom is like one of the main characters because you are playing the evil villain, but your movement is so creepily eerie but attractive, because
Ooh.
yes. And I feel like there's so much about you that a lot of people just don't know. You mentioned tumbling, and when I, have worked with you before, like
Mm-hmm.
we partnered, and you are
I
an
threw you around.
yes, you are an amazing partner
Thank
dancer,
you.
and really a leading man. And I know that you've had a ton of Broadway experience, so
Mm-hmm.
we'll get to the what you're teaching now. But talk about the inner workings of some of those shows that you've been in. I mean, you've been tapping your heart out, for a long time, and on the
Yes,
stage, is quite different than being in front of the camera.
for sure. Thank God I was discovered at the age of 12, 11 or 12. I was a competition kid. I did it for 2 years, and my mother was like, no more. You won. You're good. No more trophies. And I was discovered by Diane Walker and Savion Glover.
Mm-hmm.
So that it afforded me the basically ability to travel and work. And I did
Yeah,
schoolwork, but my best learning was done either in the studio or on stage.
yeah,
And I had that for a good 5 years of tap shows.
yeah.
Basically, in your formative years from being a tween to a teen, that's when you absorb the most knowledge. And I literally, if anybody did a dance step around me, told me anything, everybody was an auntie and uncle that pulled me to the side.
Mm-hmm.
And all of those gems that I learned from 12 to 17, I still hold on to them now, like many, many years later.
Yeah.
Not only just for the stage, but just in life and for camera, for all of those things, and mainly just being a good human being. So
Mm-hmm.
everything I learned from musical theater, because musical theater discipline is like no other discipline, and then you add
Right.
dance discipline to that. So
Yeah.
like, you're always back straight, eyebrows up, ready for the camera, ready for the spotlight. So
Right.
I like to think that anything that I've learned in the theater world and the discipline has transferred and transferred to other media and has transformed me as a person.
Yeah. Well, so as far as Savion and oh my gosh, Diane Walker, love her. I mean, my
Hmm.
sister and I have a tap background, as you know,
Yes, I
and we
do.
were doing kind of like at 12 and 13, kind of in the same, you know, we're I don't know if we're the same age, but in the same kind of circles.
Hmm.
And it's just a little bit, I mean, you know how the dance industry in LA and New York, let's say, are really small. You know, like
Hmm.
people think, oh yeah, it's big as Hollywood. I'm like, no, it's really small. And then the tap world within that world is like this exactly.
Yes. Yeah.
So for you to have those kind of mentors, you know, it just feels like, you know, we were doing this tap project the other day, and I felt like, my gosh, the amount of practice that you need to get good, you know,
Yes.
is, and not like any other discipline is not the same, because you need, you know, how many ever hours practice to be an expert. But in tap, it's like, it's a whole nother beast, you know what I mean? So
Hmm.
when you look at the kids that are today, you know, the TikToks, the this, the, you know, because I'm looking at it and I'm like, but,
Hey, hey,
hey,
hey.
you know, and then I'm like, you know how many hours we had to do something else to just be put on. So,
Yes.
you know, how do you look at the online shifts that dance has taken
Hmm.
to platform? I mean, TikTok, yes, but it used to be Vine. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of just melded
It's been
itself
all
in.
the things.
Yes. So how do you see yourself in these platforms, and where the shift has taken dance, and if you agree with it or not? You know, what's your take?
Got it. I would like to always be a devil's advocate. You know, we're older, we've done a lot of different things, but we also have to remember that not everybody wants to do what we've done. And I
Right.
think a
Right.
lot of times in the business, it's like you either do Broadway or TV or movies or dance behind an artist. But a lot
Yeah.
of times, the newer generation looks at us and goes, but you had to ask for all of those things. You had to audition for those things. You had
Yeah.
to schmooze for those things. I don't have to. I
Right.
can just be in the privacy of my own home or have my own director filming me, and then everything is through me. It's my eyes, it's my brain, it's my POV. I don't have to change who I am. I'm going to do directly to you,
Mm-hmm.
source to the consumer, you know.
Exactly.
Now, has it affected the way the vets go about life and working? Yes. I'm not one who's necessarily technologically savvy. Never really have been.
I wouldn't have
Um,
known that because I've seen you on some lives.
it ain't me. I'll be like trying to figure it out. Yeah, trying to figure it out. But I will say this. There's a difference in the performance, but
Mm-hmm.
that's with everything. That's with
Yeah.
everything and everybody.
Yeah.
I love going out into the world and making content that you see on TV and that you see in film and that you see in musical theater. And I
Mm-hmm.
always have to remember, just because I like it does not mean everybody else does. Just
Right.
because I like a certain book doesn't mean somebody else will. And just
Mm-hmm.
because my favorite food is French fries, somebody else might hate French fries. So I have to remember that the world
Yeah.
does not think the way that I do.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I do applaud the people who are going out there and are doing it on their own, because it's the hardest thing to do, to step out there, put yourself out there, be vulnerable, and then just be like, this is me. Now it comes with some some double-edged swords, because once you put it out there, it's out there for everybody to use, to ingest, to consume, to take.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do enjoy showing the fruits on here, but not necessarily the process. And I'm very old school that way, where it's
Yeah.
like, I like to fail in private and then show you all the nice stuff. Because that's just, you know, that's what we
Your
leave.
Instagram. Your Instagram.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that what they say? It's Instagram versus reality, or I don't know what they're. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, I like to have my social media be very reflective of who I am as a person.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
want you to see many facets. I want you to see that you can do it. I love to see, you know, show you my humor, that I'm very dry and sarcastic. But at the end of the day, I think everybody has to remember, do you.
Do
If
you
that's what you want
exactly?
to do it. If not, move on.
Yeah. Well, so doing you've participated in Broadway Babysitters, and
Yes.
tell us more about that and how you're involved in that.
So my one of my close friends, Vasti Mompoint, that I met doing a Broadway show,
Mhm.
she has always loved children. She's a wonderful, like, flower child loving human being. She started Broadway Babysitters Playhouse, especially before the pandemic. I mean, and then she brought it virtually. Now she started the Broadway Babysitters because so many people on Broadway have children and they work
Mhm.
at 3 to 4 hours a night. So it's like, might as well bring your child to work and have somebody watch them.
Right.
With this virtually, Broadway stars, Broadway community, we teach people's kids.
Mhm.
And from ages like 12 months all the way up to some teenagers, they get a quick education. I'm only teaching for like 20 minutes, but
Yeah.
it's more of something to interact with the children, to keep them moving, and to also let them know that there's other things out there. There's live singing, there's performance. And what I will say is this: I've been working with my special ability babies on there, and that has brought so much joy to me because, there's a lot of people, like dancers, who don't like to watch themselves dance, or actors who don't want to watch their films. I don't like the way my voice sounds to me. And we all hear, our voices
Yeah.
differently. And I've realized that there's healing in my voice because for my babies who have autism or any kind of anything that they're living with, I didn't know that my dryness and my tone speaks to them. So it's been very healing for me as well as them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could talk all day, but we don't have all day. So when you think about the future of dance and fitness and online movement per se, where do
Mhm.
you see it going?
I have no idea. I I give it to people after 6 months in if they're still sticking with it, because it was hard for me to do,
Yeah.
because we're just so used to people,
Hmm.
being there in real life. But I have to think about, for the people around the world who don't necessarily get US training, this is their lifestyle. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to adopt that mentality to really use technology for good,
Hmm.
and really, like, do the IG lives, teach when I can, but not getting burnt out, because then there's self-care on the other side. So it's like, you know, I have to take a step away. If that's just dancing for fun and not necessarily making up choreography, then so be it. But I'm not quite sure where it's going to go. For people that have already invested in this way before this year,
Yeah.
they are seeing a harvest.
Exactly.
They're seeing a harvest and
Yeah.
reaping all the benefits. But for other people who are just trying to, like, white knuckle and keep it going, I know it's been a little bit hard, especially for young ones in dance studios, like, who can't necessarily go to the dance studio. So I'm not quite sure, but I hope it continues for the good of everybody.
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the things I've noticed is that the home studio has like evolved.
Yes. And
Like
people have studios at home. I
I
never had that.
my sister and I had my mom renovated our garage and we
Work.
would tap in the garage,
Yes.
but because that's the only place that made sense. But
Hmm.
but beyond that, like that was our home studio way back in the day, like 1992.
Yes.
But now I talk to people and they say, well, I don't want to, I don't know if I could do it at home. And I was talking to Amy Allen, who said,
Hmm.
you realize that when you go into a casting room, it's no bigger than your home. So when you're
Hmm.
doing your commercial casting, like you might have more space at home than you do in
Hmm.
that box, right?
Very true.
And so when now I'm thinking of the auditions, like I don't know if you remember back in the day they were doing the Apple iTunes auditions where they're
Oh, yeah, I
iPod,
remember that.
right?
Yep.
And
Didn't you
literally,
do an iPod commercial?
no, but I wanted
Oh.
to.
Oh.
But way back in the day, I think it was Hi Hat, or I don't know, somebody was doing these auditions, and you were in a box, and literally they were looking at your feet. They were filming like body parts. They weren't interested in like the take big steps and fill the room. Like they were like stand in one spot, and we're gonna do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
So dance auditions don't always have to be in those big rooms, but people like Marguerite Derricks are saying, if I put choreography out and I want a submission, I'm not changing my choreography. So when you think about it from like a choreography side of things, how do you look at, what you will do in an online space, either for presenting choreography for a job
Hmm.
or presenting it because you're the choreographer on the job, looking at the submissions? Like,
Yeah.
where's your brain at as far as those two standpoints?
So I will say, while I'm teaching, because most of the times I'm teaching adults who don't
Mhm.
have access to a lot of space, who may not have the money. I choreograph it in my living room, which is a 6 by 6 space, and
Mhm.
I'm 6'1". So if I can do it full out in my space, you should be able to do it full out in yours. So I think
Right.
that way. Now,
Yeah.
when it comes to choreography, I also like to challenge the dancer to become creative.
Mhm.
Let's try something. Like for the most part, I love to travel. I
Mhm.
love to cut through space and time. I just love to extend, but I don't necessarily have that all the time. So I think there's moments where for commercials, because for all commercials, you're not dancing to the fullest of your ability. So of
Right.
course it's a case by case basis. But for me, I like to give options. I'm
Mhm.
always an option person where I'm like, I would love a leap here, but if you don't have this space, let me see a bot mile. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like really show me the best of yourself in those moments and get creative, because a lot of times that's what we have to do anyway in
Yeah.
real life at an audition. And it's like, why wouldn't you love to do that at home? You can do it more than one shot. At an audition,
True.
it's once and go,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly. Well, so I'm gonna rattle off some of your extravaganza,
Oh,
your resume, and then I'm gonna ask you one last question. Okay,
okay.
you've been in things like The Wiz, rope. I can't even read. Tarzan, Hot
Hmm.
Feet, Oklahoma, which was something you choreographed. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, Black and Blue. There's so many 41-year-old virgin. Okay, so bring it on. Right, all of these
Yes.
things. What haven't you done? What would you like to do?
The funny thing is, I think I had a completion in 2012.
Oh,
2012 was everything I've ever wanted to do. And the great thing is, like, I asked God for a bus pass and I got a limousine. So the first time I was doing a lot of different things, I got the best of it the first time around.
yeah.
So it's not that I was jaded, but I was just like, oh, well, I got the best of it. Then I can scratch that off the list and keep moving. What I'm doing now more is choreography,
Mhm.
and choreography is what gives me the butterflies, and it keeps my brain movement moving, and it like keeps me up at night.
Mhm.
So I would say a lot of the dance things, I still love to dance. The leg still goes up, the ponytail still hits the ground in a layout, you know what I mean? After, I might need some Epsom salt, but even still. But I think on focusing more on choreography and
Mhm.
helping other people be better,
Yeah.
because it's enough to be in the spotlight and be in the front and have all the pressure, but if I can teach someone else to do that, to hone those skills and to show them that they can,
Mhm.
that's now my passion.
Awesome. Well, I am good. I'm just gonna keep watching the TV because I keep seeing you everywhere, even in past projects that I had no idea you were in. But everybody can find him on Dom Kelley. That's his IG handle. And then if you go to his website, it's domkelley.com. And there's an E in Kelley. Actually, there's
Yes.
two. um,
Mhm.
but I appreciate you taking the time. I know that it's
Thank
so,
you.
so much knowledge that you have that if anybody can take your class or just watch your videos, they will learn so much. And I love you. I'll
I
see
love you. Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.